In 19th century England, the Bennett family lives in the countryside with 5 daughters and one deeply anxious mother. Mrs. Bennett has devoted her entire existence to one purpose: marrying her girls off to the wealthiest men available. In this era, a woman's worth is entirely defined by the man she marries and his standing in society. Of the 5 daughters, 4 fit neatly into their mother's vision. Jane is beautiful and graceful. Lizzie is sharp and witty. Kitty is cheerful and agreeable. Lydia is lively and spirited. And then there is Mary, bookish, plain by society's standards, and deeply different from the rest. Mary wears glasses. She prefers reading to socializing. She has no patience for the games of courtship, and her mother never lets her forget that she does not measure up. One afternoon, Mary overhears her mother venting to a friend. Her mother laughs and says she will be more than satisfied if she can simply marry off the other 4, and that she only hopes Mary does not ruin her sister's chances. These words devastate Mary completely. She cannot bring herself to look in the mirror that night. The following day, Mary visits the optometrist's shop because her eyesight has been deteriorating. There she encounters Mr. Sparrow, a young man who helps her select the right lenses. When she puts on the glasses, Mr. Sparrow tells her she looks gorgeous. Mary is touched, but immediately thinks of how her mother would never agree with that assessment. Shortly after, while walking home with her sisters, Mary hears about a grand ball taking place in Meryton within a month. These balls are the primary social hunting ground for eligible suitors, and the Bennett household prepares accordingly. Their father announces that only 3 daughters will attend, and Mary is included in the 3. However, Mrs. Bennett immediately overrides this, insisting all 5 must go, the other 4 to pursue husbands, and Mary to wait on her hand and foot. That same evening, Mary puts on her glasses to read and escape the tension of the house. Her mother spots her and launches into a cruel tirade, telling her that her face did not need to look any worse than it already does. Mary sits at the table, scratching her hands beneath it, struggling to keep her composure. Later that night, the family maid, Hill, notices how much Mary genuinely wants to attend the ball. She lifts Mary's spirits by reminding her that even if she appears plain next to her sisters, she still possesses qualities that make her lovable and worth noticing. Mary holds tightly onto those words. When the night of the ball arrives, Mary attends with her family and their friend Charlotte. One by one, her sisters are swept onto the dance floor. Mary stands at the edge watching until Mr. Sparrow approaches and asks her to dance. She is overjoyed. But the moment is cut short when her mother yanks her aside and forbids her from dancing with him again, citing his low social standing as the son of a glasses shop owner. Mary obeys without hesitation. She returns to Mr. Sparrow and tells him coldly that her mother does not consider him to be on their social level. The words leave a bitter taste. She realizes she has hurt an innocent man purely out of fear and submission. That night, she looks in the mirror and wonders when she became so weak. She makes a private promise to begin discovering who she truly is. Weeks pass, and Mary isolates herself, reading constantly in search of real-life wisdom. Life then delivers a significant disruption when a cousin named Mr. Collins writes to announce he is coming to visit. The family learns a painful truth about their inheritance. Upon their father's death, the entire estate transfers to Mr. Collins. Mrs. Bennett devises a plan for Lizzie to marry him and secure the family's future. Lizzie refuses outright. Mr. Collins ends up proposing to their family friend Charlotte, who accepts. Mrs. Bennett, in a characteristic display of irrationality, manages to blame Mary for the entire debacle and declares that no man will ever marry a girl who wears glasses. Time continues to move forward. The Bennett sisters marry one by one: Jane, Lizzie, Kitty, and Lydia, each finding her match. Mary is the only one left at home. She buries herself deeper in books until the day her father dies suddenly. She is left alone with her mother. Barely a week into mourning, Mr. Collins arrives to inform them they have 2 weeks to vacate the house. Jane steps up and offers to take their mother in, extending the same offer to Mary. Their mother waves it off, announcing that her brother and his wife in London have invited Mary to spend the summer helping with the children while their nanny is on holiday. Mary is blindsided. Even in her mother's hour of need, she is simply assigned elsewhere. On the morning of her departure, she waits by the door, hoping for a goodbye. Hill, the maid, appears instead and gently explains that Mrs. Bennett is feeling unwell. Mary picks up her bag and leaves alone. The moment Mary arrives in London, something shifts. Her Aunt Gardner welcomes her with genuine warmth and installs her in a comfortable room, treating her with the kind of unconditional care she has never experienced at home. The next morning, she meets her 3 young cousins, Anne, George, and Rebecca. In her earnest way, Mary attempts to teach them history and geology. George falls asleep. Rebecca disappears into a wooden trunk. It is their family friend Tom Hayward who saves the afternoon, walking in and instantly winning the children over with his easy humor and playful energy. Mary finds herself laughing for the first time in a long while, completely naturally and without self-consciousness. In the days that follow, Aunt Gardner takes Mary to a fabric shop to choose material for new dresses ahead of the upcoming dinner parties. At the shop, Mary freezes. Her mother's voice floods in immediately, telling her no color suits her complexion. Aunt Gardner quietly reminds her that her mother is not present and that the only thing that matters is picking what she herself loves. Something small but significant loosens inside Mary. One afternoon, while alone in the house, Mary tries to play the way she has watched the children play. Tom walks in unexpectedly, and rather than finding it odd, he joins her without hesitation. He begins recommending poetry books to her, having observed closely that literature is her deepest love. Mary feels something for him she has never felt for anyone before. At the first family gathering, Mary is consumed by anxiety. These social situations have historically left her feeling invisible and mocked, but by chance she meets Baxter, Tom's girlfriend, who is warm and genuine with her. Mary has an unexpectedly wonderful evening. The discovery that Baxter and Tom are in a committed relationship is a quiet blow, but Mary refocuses her energy on self-discovery. She resolves to use her remaining time in London to meet new people and rebuild herself from the inside out. However, she overhears her uncle speaking privately to his wife, observing that Mrs. Bennett's toxic parenting has left Mary with no self-confidence and a deep fear of engaging with anyone around her. Hearing herself described this plainly wounds her deeply. She slips away before being noticed. Shortly afterward, a letter arrives from her mother demanding she return to look after the family dog. Mary seizes on this as an excuse to flee London, away from Tom and from the unfamiliar feelings that have been growing inside her. Aunt Gardner tells her a quiet story about going hat shopping and falling in love with a hat that was already taken, only to find 3 equally beautiful ones in the next shop, choosing at last the one that felt most like herself. She makes it plain she is not talking about hats. She urges Mary to stay, pointing out that London holds doors she has not yet opened. That evening, Mary puts on the dress she selected entirely by her own taste and attends the farewell party her uncle and aunt have arranged for her. There she meets a man named William Ryder, confident, handsome, and visibly captivated by her. Something comes alive in her that night. She decides to stay in London. The weeks that follow are unlike anything Mary has ever experienced. At a grand ball, Ryder asks her to dance. Sensing her tension, he asks about the things she loves until she relaxes completely. She radiates a happiness that draws the attention of the entire room. Tom watches from across the floor with barely concealed jealousy. Caroline Bingley, the sister of Mary's own brother-in-law, swoops in feeling threatened and attempts a public humiliation, loudly implying that Mary has come to London to work as a nanny. For the first time in her life, Mary claps back. She tells Caroline that she sounds as though she speaks from a great deal of personal experience with rejection. Caroline, rattled, walks away. Tom pulls Mary aside afterwards to warn her that Ryder is reckless and that she should be careful. Mary dismisses it, insisting there is nothing between them beyond pleasant company. The night deteriorates when Caroline publicly demands that Mary sing. Memories of her last humiliating performance resurface immediately. Then her uncle rushes in with news that her mother is gravely ill. In the panic, Mary knocks a priceless vase from a table and shatters it. Mortified, she flees the room without a word and travels all the way back to the city, only to arrive and find her sisters lounging comfortably and her mother in perfect health. The usual coldness greets her. Her mother observes that London has made her skin look worse. Mary recognizes with sinking clarity that she is back at square one, in the same toxic environment she has been trying to escape. A week passes. Her mother assigns her to look after the family dog. No one notices her misery except Lizzie, to whom Mary confesses the disastrous final night in London. Lizzie comforts her as best she can. Then a servant announces she has a visitor. Mary walks into the guest room to find Ryder standing there. He has traveled from London specifically to see her. Her mother and sisters are stunned by his appearance and obvious wealth. He barely conceals how much he admires Mary. Mrs. Bennet immediately invites him to stay for several days. Over the following days, Ryder opens himself up to Mary in a way she has never experienced with anyone. He tells her about his father, a scientist consumed by his work, who died when Ryder was 15. He confesses that his greatest regret was not spending enough time with him, and that this loss shaped his entire philosophy: to spend his life pursuing what genuinely makes him happy. He asks Mary to accompany him to Italy, to explore and learn side by side. Her heart races at the idea. But then he adds the sentence that stops everything. He tells her he knew she was like him, against the suffocating chains of marriage. Mary goes still and asks plainly whether he is inviting her without the intention of marrying. He realizes his mistake immediately and gives her until morning to consider it. That night, Lizzie comes to check on her. Upon hearing the actual nature of the offer, she is furious on Mary's behalf, pointing out that he is essentially asking her to be a companion until he loses interest. Mary snaps at her, asking whether she is genuinely worried or only afraid of the family scandal. Lizzie leaves her with a single question: does she love him enough to sacrifice her reputation and her future for him? The next morning, Mary gives Ryder her answer. She tells him she respects herself too much and that she hopes he finds someone who truly wants what he wants. He accepts this with visible heartbreak and departs. When Mrs. Bennett discovers what happened, she delivers an ultimatum. Either Mary writes to Ryder immediately begging forgiveness and accepting his offer, or she remains at home as her personal servant indefinitely. Mary chooses the servant life without flinching. Lizzie, having witnessed enough of her mother's cruelty, writes to their uncle and begs him to come and take Mary away. He arrives and invites her to join them on a trip to the Lake District. Mrs. Bennett refuses to allow it, but Mary, having finally reached her absolute limit, accepts the invitation herself. Before she boards the carriage, Lizzie pulls her aside and tells her that she is sorry for every time she ever made Mary feel like an embarrassment, and that she has always been proud of her. Mary holds her for a long moment, having waited a very long time to hear those words. In the carriage, Aunt Gardner mentions that Tom will be joining them in the Lake District. Mary sits quietly with the knowledge that her life has an extraordinary talent for complication. At a rest stop, she runs into Baxter by chance and learns that Baxter and Tom have ended their relationship. Baxter's feelings changed, and she is already engaged to someone new. Mary is quietly elated, though immediately concerned about whether Tom is hurting. When they finally meet in the Lake District, both Mary and Tom tiptoe carefully around the subjects they are most afraid to raise. They go fishing together and walk through the woods and talk for hours. Aunt Gardner quietly observes to Mary one evening that Tom's behavior around her is unmistakable. He is completely unaffected by the breakup and far too comfortable in Mary's company. One afternoon, Tom takes Mary out on the lake alone and begins to tell her that his feelings for Baxter changed a very long time ago. He is on the verge of saying something more when Ryder's voice carries across the water from the shoreline. Ryder, overjoyed at the coincidence, swims out to the boat. In the chaos of pulling him aboard, Tom ends up in the water himself. The moment is entirely destroyed. Ryder has not come alone. Caroline is with him, and her face hardens the instant she sees Mary. That evening at dinner, Tom mentions the mountain climbing plan he and Mary have arranged for the following day. Ryder immediately invites the entire group along, and Mary smiles and agrees while inwardly despairing. The next morning, the group begins climbing. Halfway up, her uncle and aunt lose interest and return to the hotel. Near the summit, Tom finally positions himself to speak to Mary plainly. He tells her there is no one else in the world with whom he can be entirely himself. He is about to say more when Ryder interrupts, pulling Tom aside on the pretext of an urgent work matter. When Tom returns, his entire demeanor has shifted. He tells Mary flatly that his personal circumstances have changed and that there can no longer be anything between them. Mary cannot begin to understand what happened in those few minutes. Their guide issues a sharp warning. A severe storm is bearing down and everyone must descend immediately. Ryder encourages the group to stay and witness it from the peak. Tom overrules him, pointing out the genuine danger. Mary, wounded and angry, refuses to go down. Tom stays behind because he has given her uncle his word to keep her safe. Minutes later, the storm descends exactly as predicted. Ryder, abandoning all his earlier bravado, immediately saves himself and vanishes. Caroline slips and her leg becomes pinned beneath a rock. Mary stays with her, using every ounce of her strength to push the rock free. She and Tom then carry Caroline down together the rest of the way. When they reach the hotel, Mary's body gives out. She falls gravely ill and remains bedridden for several days. Tom sits outside her door every day until the doctor confirms she is recovering. Then he packs his belongings and leaves without a word. Back in London, Mary waits for any communication from Tom. None comes. She stops waiting and turns her focus entirely inward. She takes a position as a nanny, exactly the life she always imagined for herself. She gradually stops measuring herself against other people's opinions. She finds genuine family in the company of her uncle and aunt. Then Ryder visits to apologize for the chaos he caused and, having changed considerably, proposes marriage in earnest. Mary is kind but direct. She tells him she does not have feelings for him, that she could never make him happy, and that he deserves to be with someone who truly loves him. He accepts this, says his goodbyes, and leaves. Her mother, who has arrived in London to conduct her own husband-hunting campaign on Mary's behalf, comes charging in, hoping to intercept. Mary tells her that it is enough and walks outside for air. On the street, she runs into Mr. Sparrow, who is now a qualified doctor with a daughter approaching her first birthday. He has achieved everything he ever dreamed of. He looks at Mary and asks her directly why she continues to exhaust herself trying to please a woman whose worldview will never align with her own. He says his goodbye and leaves. His words settle heavily on her. She returns home and tells her mother plainly that she is not marrying Ryder, that she will not marry anyone until she is ready, that she understands her mother equates happiness with a good husband, but that she herself is happy with the life she has chosen, and that enough is enough. Her mother, affronted, packs her bags and returns to the city. The following morning, Caroline arrives at the door. She thanks Mary for saving her life on the mountain, acknowledging that after everything she put her through, most people would not have stayed. Mary puts her at ease. In doing so, she admits something she has never said aloud, that her heart has always belonged to Tom, even if it was never meant to be. Caroline is visibly relieved. A week later, Mary is walking through the square when she comes face to face with Tom. He explains what happened on the mountain. Ryder had pulled him aside to reveal that he was planning to propose to Mary, arguing that he was the better financial prospect and that Tom should step back for her sake. Tom believed him and stepped away to give her the better opportunity. Mary is furious. She tells him he had no right to decide what was best for her, and that she has known for a long time exactly where she belongs. Tom finally says what he has been holding in far too long. He loves her. The reason he came back at all is that Caroline wrote to him explaining the truth and telling him that Mary loves him, repaying her debt for her life on the mountain in the only way she knew how. Not long after, Mary and Tom marry. They fill their home with everything they ever dreamed of. Shelves full of poetry, warmth, and a love that was never loud, but always steady and real. The girl who was told she was not enough, who spent years invisible in her own family, ultimately found that she never needed to become anything other than what she already was. The world simply needed time to catch up with her.